Hello guys, welcome to Scion What Ifs. So in this video, we will see what if Goku was found and raised by Whis. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Angel's Ward. Whis hovered in the empty void of space, his staff glowing softly as he tracked the small object hurtling through the darkness. He hadn't planned on intercepting random space debris today. He'd been on his way to try a new delicacy on planet Zuno, but the energy signature pulsing from this particular pod had caught his attention. Unusual, to say the least. Now what could you possibly be, he mused aloud, tapping his staff. The spherical pod slowed to a complete stop before him. A quick inspection revealed a Scion space pod, primitive technology by universal standards, but effective enough for its purpose. Whis peered through the small window and raised an eyebrow at the infant inside. The baby boy was sound asleep despite his wild journey through space, his tiny tail curled around his leg. A Scion child? Curious. Whis could sense something different about this one. Most Scion infants registered modest power levels suitable for conquest of weaker worlds. But this child, there was something special buried beneath the surface. A potential that rippled through time itself. Whis tapped his staff again, accessing the pod's navigation system. Earth? My, that's quite far from your homeworld, little one. He frowned slightly as his staff displayed additional information. Planet Vegeta, destroyed. By Frisia, no less. How extremely rude of him. The baby stirred in his sleep, his tiny fists clenching. Whis studied him with growing interest. The destruction of planet Vegeta wasn't particularly concerning. Planets were destroyed all the time, after all, but something about this child nagged at his cosmic awareness. I suspect you're meant for something rather significant, Whis said to the sleeping baby. Your destiny was leading you to Earth, but I wonder. He trailed off, a most unusual idea forming. Lord Beerus would be asleep for at least another few decades. Things had been rather dull lately. And this child's potential, well, it might prove to be the most interesting project in several millennia. I do believe I'll borrow you for a while, Whis decided, tapping his staff once more. The pod's door hissed open. The sudden change woke the baby, who immediately began wailing at an impressive volume. Whis winced at the noise. My, you have quite the set of lungs. He lifted the child with his free hand. Now, there's no need for all that. The baby's cries only intensified, his face scrunching up in distress. Whis bounced him awkwardly. I'm not particularly versed in infant care, Whis admitted. But I suppose I can learn. The baby paused his crying just long enough to look up at Whis with wide, curious eyes. For a moment, their gazes locked, the ancient angel and the Scion infant, before the child broke into an unexpected giggle and reached for Whis's face. Oh. Am I amusing to you? Whis asked, finding himself smiling despite his usual reserve. Well then, little Scion, shall we go home? Lord Beerus will be quite surprised when he wakes up. With a tap of his staff, Whis and the baby vanished, leaving the empty pod floating in space. Raising an infant Scion proved even more challenging than Whis had anticipated, and he'd anticipated considerable difficulty. Kakarot, Whis said, reading the name from the pod's records as he chased the crawling baby across the ceiling of Beerus's palace. While I appreciate your enthusiasm for defying gravity, mealtime is not the appropriate moment. At 6 months under Wiss's care, Kakarot had already demonstrated the typical Scion traits, incredible appetite, remarkable physical development, and an instinctive knack for causing chaos. The palace, normally pristine and peaceful during Beerus's long slumbers, now echoed with baby giggles and the occasional crash of priceless artifacts. Perhaps I should have considered this more carefully, Whis muttered as he finally caught the naked baby, who had somehow managed to remove the specially designed clothing Whis had created for him. Kakarot giggled and pulled at Wiss's face. You find my predicament entertaining, do you? Whis couldn't help but smile. I suppose it is rather absurd. An angel of my standing playing nursemaid to a scion child. Despite the challenges, Whis found himself becoming increasingly fond of his ward. There was something refreshing about Kakarot's simple joy, his undiluted curiosity about everything around him. So different from the calculated politeness Whis encountered from most beings. Let's try this again, Whis said, materializing new clothes onto the squirming baby. Food first, then perhaps we'll work on your floating technique. You seem to have a natural aptitude for it. Kakarot babbled happily in response. More. 2-year-old Kakarot banged his spoon on the table, his fifth emptied bowl stacked precariously with the others. My goodness, your appetite grows daily. Whis waved his staff, and another steaming bowl appeared. Though I suppose that's to be expected of a scion child. Kakarot dove into the food with gusto, barely pausing to breathe. Whis had learned quickly that preparing enormous quantities of food was essential to keeping his young ward satisfied and relatively well-behaved. Whis, Kakarot said between mouthfuls, train after. Yes, we can train after you've finished eating and cleaned up. Whis had instituted strict rules about cleanliness early on, much to Kakarot's occasional frustration. Don't wanna clean. Wanna fight. The two are not mutually exclusive, young one. Control over one's environment is the first step toward controlling one's self. Kakarot scrunched his face in confusion. It means, Whis clarified, that a messy room leads to a messy mind. My mind not messy. Kakarot protested. Oh. Then perhaps you can tell me where you left your training weights yesterday? The boy's face fell. Forgot. Indeed. After we clean up your quarters, we'll work on your basic forms. Your balance has been improving, but your tendency to rely on brute strength rather than technique remains problematic. Kakarot perked up at the mention of training, quickly finishing his food and darting off to clean his room. Whis smiled, following at a more dignified pace. The boy's enthusiasm for martial arts was remarkable even by scion standards. Where most scion children fought out of instinct or cultural indoctrination, Kakarot seemed to genuinely love the art of combat itself. In his small room, a space Whis had created specifically for him within the vast palace, Kakarot was frantically shoving toys into bins and pulling his bedding into some semblance of order. His tail swished behind him with concentration. Remember, Kakarot, cleaning is not simply about making messes invisible, Whis instructed, leaning against the doorframe. It's about creating proper order. Like this? Kakarot asked, proudly gesturing to what was essentially a pile of toys hidden under his blanket. Not quite. Whis tapped his staff, and the room instantly reorganized itself, everything floating to its designated place. Like this. Now, observe carefully. Whis undid his work with another tap, returning the room to its previous state of disarray. Try again, and pay attention to where each item belongs. Kakarot pouted but set to work again, this time making a genuine effort to place things in their proper locations. His small face scrunched in concentration as he carefully arranged his toys and books according to the system Whis had designed. Very good, Whis nodded approvingly when Kakarot finished. You're learning. Discipline in small things leads to discipline in greater things. Now fight. Kakarot bounced on his toes, his tail wagging excitedly. Now we train, Whis corrected. Fighting and training are not the same. Remember that. At 5 years old, Kakarot hovered cross-legged in the air, eyes closed in concentration as Whis circled him, observing his form. Focus on your energy center, Whis instructed. Feel it expand and contract with your breathing. Kakarot's face scrunched up. It's hard. Of course it's hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Whis tapped Kakarot lightly on the head with his staff. Less frowning. Tension disrupts energy flow. The boy made a visible effort to relax his face, his breathing steadying. Around him, a faint aura began to glow, not the explosive energy typical of science, but something more controlled, more refined. Better, Whis nodded. Now, while maintaining that state, I want you to dodge. Without warning, Whis flicked a small energy ball toward Kakarot. The boy's eyes remained closed, but his body tilted sideways just enough for the energy to pass harmlessly by. Good. Again. 3 more energy balls, coming from different directions. Kakarot shifted position slightly each time, avoiding them all without opening his eyes. Excellent progress, Whis said. Your sensitivity to energy flows is developing nicely. Kakarot opened his eyes, beaming with pride. Can I try making the energy balls now? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, you need to perfect your stance. Whis demonstrated a complex sequence of movements. This kata emphasizes control over power. Watch carefully. Kakarot's eyes tracked every motion with intense concentration. When Whis finished, the boy immediately attempted to replicate the sequence. His movements were rough approximations, but the basic structure was there. Not bad for a first attempt, Whis commented. Your memory for physical movement is quite impressive. Again. Kakarot demanded, already resetting his position. Whis smiled at his enthusiasm. Very well. Pay particular attention to the transition between the 3rd and 4th positions. That's where the energy begins to concentrate. For the next hour, Kakarot practiced the kata repeatedly, refining his movements with each iteration. His progress was remarkable. By the 20th repetition, his form was nearly perfect, and a subtle energy began to flow visibly around his hands during the key transitions. I think that's enough for today, Whis finally said. You've made excellent progress. But I almost got it. Kakarot protested. One more time. One more, then lunch, Whis conceded, knowing food was the most effective motivator. Kakarot's face lit up as he took position once more. This time, his movements flowed seamlessly, each stance transitioning perfectly into the next. As he completed the final movement, a small, perfectly formed sphere of energy appeared between his palms. I did it, he shouted, his concentration breaking immediately. The energy sphere dissipated with a small pop. Indeed you did, Whis nodded, genuinely impressed. You're progressing faster than expected. Perhaps tomorrow we'll begin working on energy projection techniques. Yes. Kakarot pumped his fist in the air, then frowned suddenly. Whis, when will Lord Beerus wake up? The question caught Whis off guard. Lord Beerus? He's scheduled to wake in another 35 years. Why do you ask? Kakarot shrugged. Just wondering. You always talk about him. Will he like me? Whis considered the question carefully. Lord Beerus is particular about whom he associates with. But he appreciates strength and skill. If you continue developing at this rate, I believe he'll find you interesting, at the very least. Good. Kakarot said, apparently satisfied with this answer. I want to fight him someday. Whis nearly choked at the child's audacity. Fight Lord Beerus? My, you do aim high. You said I should always aim high. So I did, Whis acknowledged with a small smile. Well then, if you wish to challenge a god of destruction someday, you have much work to do. Starting with lunch. Growing scions need proper nutrition. As they headed toward the dining area, Whis found himself pondering Kakarot's ambition. The notion of this child challenging Beerus would have seemed laughable when he first brought him to the palace. Now, observing his extraordinary rate of development, perhaps it wasn't entirely impossible. Eventually. Again, Whis commanded, standing perfectly still as 8-year-old Kakarot charged at him. The boy moved with impressive speed, his punches and kicks flowing together in combinations far beyond what most adult warriors could manage. Each strike was precisely aimed at Whis's vital points, or where vital points would be on a mortal being. Whis deflected each attack with minimal movement, his expression calm. Your sequence is becoming predictable. Adapt. Kakarot immediately changed tactics, dropping to sweep Whis's legs while simultaneously sending a small ki blast toward his face. Whis stepped over the sweep and tilted his head slightly to avoid the blast. Better, he acknowledged. But your energy control still lacks finesse. The blast was too large for its purpose. I almost got you that time. Kakarot insisted, bouncing back to his feet with a grin. Almost is still failure, Whis replied, though not unkindly. In real combat, almost means death. Kakarot's face grew serious. Show me how to do it right. Whis nodded approvingly at his attitude. Observe. He extended one finger, and a tiny point of light appeared at its tip. Energy should be concentrated to its essential purpose. No waste. The point of light shot forward with incredible speed, passing through a stone column 50 meters away and leaving a perfectly round hole no bigger than a needle. Kakarot's eyes widened. Whoa! It barely looked like anything, but it went straight through solid rock. Precision over power, Whis explained. Though both have their place. Now you try. Kakarot extended his finger as Whis had done, his face scrunching in concentration. A small ball of energy formed, much larger than Whis's pinpoint but smaller than his previous attempts. Better, Whis encouraged. Now focus it further. Imagine compressing all that energy into the smallest possible point. The energy ball slowly contracted, shrinking to the size of a marble, then smaller still until it was barely visible. Sweat beaded on Kakarot's forehead from the effort. Now release, with intent. Kakarot thrust his finger forward, and the tiny energy point shot across the training ground. It struck another column, creating a hole about the size of Kakarot's thumb, much larger than Whis's demonstration but still impressively small compared to the boy's usual energy blasts. I did it. Kakarot jumped up and down in excitement. A promising start, Whis agreed. With practice, you'll refine it further. Kakarot was already trying again, his second attempt creating a slightly smaller hole. His focus when learning new techniques was remarkable. Once something caught his interest, he would practice relentlessly until he mastered it. After his fifth attempt produced a hole the size of his pinky, Kakarot paused, wiping sweat from his brow. Whis, where did I come from? The question seemed to come from nowhere, catching Whis by surprise. He'd known this conversation would happen eventually, of course, but he hadn't expected it today. What prompted this question? He asked carefully. Kakarot shrugged. I was just thinking. You're an angel. Lord Beerus is a destroyer god. Everyone else who visits is important. But what am I? Where did I come from before you found me? Whis regarded the boy thoughtfully. At 8 years old, Kakarot was already showing signs of the powerful warrior he would become. His scion heritage was evident in his physical development and natural combat instincts, but his personality had been shaped by his unusual upbringing, a strange blend of scion aggression tempered by divine discipline. You came from a planet called Vegeta, Whis finally said. You are a scion, a warrior race known throughout the universe for their fighting ability and resilience. Kakarot's eyes widened. A whole planet of fighters. Can we visit? Unfortunately not. Planet Vegeta was destroyed shortly after your departure. Destroyed? How? By who? By a being named Frisia. He's what you might call an emperor. He controls a substantial portion of the universe through conquest. Kakarot frowned, processing this information. So my family, they're all gone. Most likely, Whis said gently. Though there may be other scion survivors scattered throughout the universe. Your pod was set to take you to a planet called Earth before I intercepted it. Why was I being sent away? Scion children were often sent to conquer planets with weaker inhabitants. It was their way. Kakarot was silent for a long moment, his usual boundless energy subdued. So I was supposed to hurt people? Kill them? Whis chose his words carefully. That was the purpose for which you were sent. But destiny is not fixed, Kakarot. The path you walk now is very different from what was intended for you. Is that why you took me? To change my destiny? I took you because I sensed potential in you, potential that might have been wasted elsewhere. Whis placed a hand on Kakarot's shoulder. Your heritage is part of who you are, but it does not define you. Remember that. Kakarot nodded slowly, his young face unusually solemn. Then, with typical resilience, he straightened his shoulders. I want to try that energy technique again. Whis smiled, relieved by the boy's adaptability. Very well. But this time, focus on your breathing first. Center yourself. As Kakarot resumed his training with renewed determination, Whis found himself reflecting on how attached he'd become to this scion child. It was most unusual for an angel to develop such sentiments, concerning, perhaps, but watching Kakarot grow and develop under his guidance had become the most interesting project of his extremely long existence. Kakarot. What have I told you about disturbing Lord Beerus's resting chamber? Whis's voice echoed through the palace halls as he pursued the energy signature of his 12-year-old ward. He found the boy hovering near the sealed doors of Beerus's bedroom, peering through a small viewing portal with undisguised curiosity. I just wanted to see him, Kakarot protested, not looking particularly guilty. I've never even seen what a destroyer god looks like. That's because they're meant to be seen only when they wish to be seen, Whis explained, firmly guiding Kakarot away from the door. Lord Beerus values his sleep above all things. Disturbing him prematurely could have catastrophic consequences. Kakarot floated alongside Whis, his ability to fly now as natural as walking. Like what? Would he destroy me? He might destroy the entire solar system in his irritation, Whis said matter-of-factly. Lord Beerus is not known for his restraint when angered. Instead of being frightened by this possibility, Kakarot's eyes widened with excitement. He's that powerful. Awesome. I definitely need to fight him someday. Whis sighed. Kakarot's fascination with challenging increasingly powerful opponents had only grown with age. It was the scion in him, of course, that insatiable drive to test his limits against the strongest foes. If you wish to survive such an encounter, you'll need to continue your training with significantly more discipline than you've been showing lately. I am disciplined. Kakarot protested. Is that why I found you attempting to raid the celestial pantry at midnight yesterday? Kakarot had the grace to look embarrassed. I was hungry. You're always hungry. That's hardly an excuse for breaking the rules. Whis tapped his staff, and they transported instantly to the training grounds. Since you have so much energy for exploration, perhaps we should channel it more productively. Kakarot's face lit up at the prospect of training. Despite his occasional rebelliousness, his enthusiasm for martial arts never wavered. Today we'll work on your defensive capabilities, Whis announced. You've become quite formidable in attack, but your defense still relies too heavily on power rather than technique. Defense is boring, Kakarot complained. I want to learn that new attack you showed me last week. Attack and defense are two sides of the same coin. Neglect one, and the other becomes meaningless. Whis created a dozen energy spheres that began orbiting around them. These will attack you randomly. Your task is simple, avoid being hit without using energy blasts of your own. That's easy, Kakarot scoffed. Is it? Let's see. Whis tapped his staff, and the spheres immediately began darting toward Kakarot from all directions. The boy dodged the first few with impressive speed, his movements fluid and precise. But as the attacks increased in frequency and complexity, he found himself struggling to keep up. A sphere caught him in the back, sending him tumbling forward into the path of three more. Ouch, he yelped as they all made contact. Not so easy after all. Whis asked mildly. Kakarot righted himself, a determined look replacing his pained expression. Again. Whis reset the exercise, and Kakarot lasted longer this time, his movements becoming more economical, more strategic. By the fifth attempt, he was avoiding most of the spheres, though still not all. "You're improving," Whis acknowledged. "But you're still trying to outpace the attacks rather than predicting them. Feel the energy patterns, don't just react to what you see." "How am I supposed to feel something before it happens?" Kakarot asked, frustrated. "All energy exists before it manifests physically. Learn to sense its intention." Whis demonstrated, standing perfectly still as several spheres approached him from behind. Without turning, he shifted slightly at the last possible moment, allowing them to pass harmlessly by. The key is not speed, but awareness. Kakarot watched intently, then closed his eyes, trying to sense rather than see the energy spheres. He remained motionless until the last moment, then twisted away from an incoming attack, only to be hit by another he hadn't sensed. "Closer," Whis encouraged. "But don't focus so narrowly. Your awareness must encompass everything." For the next several hours, they worked on this technique, Kakarot gradually improving his sensing abilities. By the end of the session, he was avoiding nearly 70% of the attacks with his eyes closed, remarkable progress, though still far from mastery. "I'm getting better," he declared, breathing hard from exertion. "Indeed you are," Whis agreed. "Your rate of improvement continues to impress me. Few beings could progress so quickly in sensing techniques." Kakarot beamed at the praise. Despite his growing independence, Whis's approval still meant everything to him. "There is, however, another matter we must discuss," Whis continued, his tone becoming more serious. "Your control over your transformative abilities." Kakarot's face fell. This was a sore subject between them. 3 years ago, during a particularly intense training session, Kakarot had first experienced the Scion Oozra transformation when artificial moonlight had been accidentally created during an energy manipulation exercise. The resulting giant ape had nearly destroyed half the palace before Whis managed to subdue him and remove the stimulus. "I've been practicing the meditation techniques," Kakarot said defensively. "I haven't transformed since that one time." "That's because I've been careful to prevent the triggering conditions," Whis pointed out. "But such transformations are part of your Scion heritage. Rather than avoiding them, you should learn to control them." Kakarot's tail twitched nervously behind him. "But I don't remember anything when I transform. I just lose myself." "Precisely why we must address it. A warrior who cannot control his own power is dangerous to himself and others." Whis created a small ball of energy that mimicked moonlight, but at a fraction of the intensity needed to trigger transformation. "We'll work with gradually increasing exposure, training your mind to remain conscious during the physical changes." Kakarot eyed the energy ball warily. "What if I can't control it?" "Then I will intervene, as before." Whis gave him a reassuring smile. "I have no intention of allowing you to destroy Lord Beerus's palace while he's still sleeping in it. He would be most displeased with both of us." This earned a small laugh from Kakarot. "Yeah, and then he might actually wake up and destroy the solar system." "Precisely. So shall we begin?" Kakarot nodded, settling into a meditative pose they'd practiced for this purpose. "I'm ready. Remember, focus on maintaining your consciousness even as your body begins to respond to the stimulus. Your mind must remain dominant over your instincts." As Whis slowly increased the energy ball's intensity, Kakarot's breathing deepened, his focus turning inward even as his body began to react. This would be a long and difficult process, Whis knew, but a necessary one. The boy's potential was too great to leave any aspect of his power uncontrolled. The first time Kakarot defeated one of Whis's training constructs, he was 14 years old. The construct, designed to mimic a high-level warrior with abilities far beyond most mortal fighters, crumpled to the ground after a precisely executed combination attack that ended with Kakarot's fist stopped just short of its face. "I won!" Kakarot shouted, his face flushed with exertion and triumph. Whis nodded approvingly. "So you did. Your strategy was quite effective." Rather than relying solely on power, Kakarot had analyzed the construct's movement patterns, identified a weakness in its defensive stance, and exploited it with surgical precision. It was exactly the kind of tactical fighting Whis had been trying to instill in him. "Does this mean I can fight you for real now?" Kakarot asked eagerly. Whis chuckled. "You're ambitious as ever. Defeating a training construct is quite different from challenging me." "But I'm getting stronger all the time," Kakarot insisted. "How will I know how strong I really am if I never fight someone like you? True strength isn't measured by whom you can defeat, but by what you can protect." Whis created another construct, this one larger and more imposing than the first. "Let's continue. This opponent will require different tactics." Kakarot squared off against the new challenger, studying its movements carefully before engaging. His fighting style had evolved significantly over the years, blending Saiyan instincts with the refined techniques Whis had taught him. The result was something unique, powerful yet precise, aggressive yet controlled. As Whis observed the match, he reflected on Kakarot's extraordinary development. At 14, he was already stronger than most elite warriors across the universe, with a combat intuition that bordered on prescience. Yet there remained something untapped. Within him, a wellspring of potential that had yet to fully emerge. The match ended with another victory for Kakarot, though not without effort. He had taken several solid hits, and blood trickled from a cut above his eye. "You left yourself open during your final attack sequence," Whis noted. "Sometimes victory requires sacrifice, but unnecessary damage should always be avoided." Kakarot wiped the blood away, nodding thoughtfully. "I got impatient. I thought I could end it faster if I took a risk. Impatience leads to error. Remember that." "Yes, Whis." Kakarot stretched, working out the tension in his muscles. "Can we try something different tomorrow? Maybe that technique you mentioned before, the one about moving outside of time?" Whis raised an eyebrow. "Ultra instinct? That's far beyond your current capabilities. Even gods of destruction struggle to master it." "But you said I have potential," Kakarot argued. "And I'm bored with these constructs. I need a bigger challenge." Boredom is no justification for skipping essential steps in your training. Whis tapped his staff, and the training ground reset itself. "However, there is a technique that might interest you, a precursor to what you're asking about. It focuses on separating consciousness from physical action." Kakarot's eyes lit up. "Show me." "Patience," Whis admonished. "First, cool down properly. Then we'll begin." After completing his cool-down routine, something Whis had insisted upon from early in his training, Kakarot sat cross-legged, watching attentively as Whis demonstrated the new technique. "The key is to quiet the mind completely," Whis explained. "Not empty it, as in meditation, but to remove the barrier between thought and action. Observe." Whis stood motionless, then suddenly moved with such fluid grace that Kakarot could barely track his movements. It wasn't speed, though Whis was certainly fast, but something more fundamental, as if his body was responding without the delay of conscious thought. "Whoa," Kakarot breathed. "It's like you're moving before deciding to move." "Precisely. My body responds to threats before my mind processes them. It's the foundation of ultra instinct, though far from its full expression." "How do I learn it?" "Through specific training exercises designed to bypass your conscious reaction time." Whis created a small drone that hovered near Kakarot's head. "This will emit a harmless energy pulse at random intervals. Your task is to catch the pulse before you consciously register it." "But if I don't consciously register it, how will I know to catch it?" "That's the point. Your body must learn to react correctly without conscious direction." Whis adjusted the drone's settings. "We'll start with slower pulses to establish the pattern." The training session that followed was unlike anything Kakarot had experienced before. Rather than pushing his strength or speed, it challenged the very way his mind and body connected. Most of the pulses hit him before he could react, each one leaving a tingling sensation where it made contact. This is impossible, he complained after an hour of consistent failure. Not impossible, merely unfamiliar, Whis corrected. Your mind is trying to control the process. You must allow your instincts to take over. But you always tell me to control my instincts. Control is not suppression. True mastery means knowing when to direct and when to release. Whis adjusted the drone again. Let's approach this differently. Close your eyes. Kakarot complied, his face scrunched in concentration. Now, don't try to anticipate the pulse. Simply exist in this moment, aware of everything but attached to nothing. It sounded like nonsense to Kakarot, but he tried anyway, focusing on his breathing as he'd been taught in meditation. The drone hummed softly, moving around him in unpredictable patterns. And then, without knowing why, his hand moved, catching a pulse he hadn't even sensed coming. I got one, he exclaimed, eyes flying open in surprise. Indeed you did, Whis nodded. Now, can you understand what happened? Kakarot frowned. Not really. My hand just moved on its own. Your body responded correctly when your mind stepped out of the way. That's the essence of the technique. Whis circled around him, adjusting his posture slightly. It will take thousands of hours of practice to make this consistent, but you've experienced the basic principle. That's an excellent start. For the rest of the afternoon, they continued working with the drone, Kakarot occasionally managing to catch a pulse through instinct rather than conscious effort. Each success seemed to come when he least expected it, when he stopped trying so hard and simply allowed himself to react. By sunset, he was exhausted but exhilarated. That was awesome. Different from any training we've done before. It's a technique few mortals ever master, Whis informed him. The fact that you've shown any aptitude for it at your age is remarkable. Will it help me fight you someday? Kakarot asked with a grin. Whis sighed dramatically. Your fixation on challenging me is becoming quite persistent. Because you're the strongest person I know. How can I get better if I don't test myself against the best? There are many ways to improve without direct combat, Whis pointed out. But I suppose your scion nature demands concrete benchmarks. He considered for a moment. Very well. When you can consistently catch every pulse from 3 drones simultaneously, I will spar with you, briefly and under controlled conditions. Kakarot's face lit up with excitement. Really? You promise? I do. Though I expect it will take years of dedicated practice before you reach that level. I'll do it in 1 year. Kakarot declared confidently. Whis smiled at his ambition. We shall see. As they headed back to the palace for dinner, Whis found himself genuinely curious about whether Kakarot could meet his self-imposed deadline. The boy had consistently surpassed expectations throughout his training. If any mortal could master the preliminary stages of Ultra Instinct in a single year, perhaps it would be this unusually gifted scion. True to his word, Kakarot devoted himself to mastering the drone exercise with single-minded determination. He practiced from dawn until exhaustion forced him to stop, day after day, week after week. Whis allowed him to set his own training schedule, curious to see how far his self-motivation would take him. The answer, apparently, was very far indeed. By his 15th birthday, Kakarot could consistently catch pulses from 2 drones simultaneously, his body moving with uncanny precision even when his mind couldn't track both targets. Your progress continues to impress me, Whis acknowledged after a particularly successful session. Though I notice you've been neglecting your other training to focus on this. Kakarot grinned, breathing hard from exertion. You said if I mastered 3 drones, you'd spar with me. That's all the motivation I need. Even so, balanced development is essential. Tomorrow we'll return to energy manipulation techniques. Your reactive abilities have improved, but your offensive capabilities have plateaued. Fine, Kakarot agreed, though not without a hint of impatience. But after that, back to the drones. Whis nodded, hiding his amusement at the boy's persistence. As you wish. Though I remind you that even mastering this exercise will not make you my equal in combat. The gap between us remains substantial. I know that, Kakarot said, surprising Whis with his candor. I'm not stupid. I know you're holding back most of your power even when you demonstrate techniques. But I still want to test myself against you, to feel firsthand what that level of skill is like. Whis studied him thoughtfully. Kakarot had grown much more perceptive over the years, his battle intuition extending to a deeper understanding of power differentials. It was a maturity that belied his youth. A worthy goal, Whis conceded. Though I wonder if you fully appreciate what you're asking for. Kakarot's expression grew serious. I do. I might get completely demolished. But that's how scions grow stronger, right? By pushing past our limits. Indeed. Though most scions wouldn't choose an angel as their measuring stick quite so eagerly. Whis tapped his staff against the ground. Very well. Continue your training as you see fit. I remain curious to see if you can meet your self-imposed deadline. As the months passed, Kakarot's progress accelerated. By 10 months into his challenge, he could handle 2 drones flawlessly and was making significant headway with 3. His movements had become increasingly fluid, his reactions so quick they seemed to precede the drone's actions. Then, 2 weeks before his deadline, he hit a wall. Adding the 3rd drone pushed his senses beyond their capacity, and his success rate plummeted. No matter how hard he trained, he couldn't seem to process the additional input. Whis found him late one night, still practicing despite obvious exhaustion, frustration etched across his features. Perhaps it's time to acknowledge that some goals require more time than anticipated, Whis suggested gently. No. Kakarot's response was immediate and vehement. I said I'd do it in a year, and I will. I just need to figure out what I'm doing wrong. You're trying too hard, Whis observed. You've reverted to conscious effort rather than instinctive response. The harder you try, the further you move from the technique's essence. Kakarot frowned, wiping sweat from his brow. So what should I do? Step back. Rest. Clear your mind completely. Whis deactivated the drones with a wave of his staff. You've been training for 16 hours straight. Even a scion has limits. But there's only 2 weeks left, and pushing yourself to collapse won't help you succeed. Whis placed a hand on Kakarot's shoulder. Sometimes progress comes not through effort, but through release. Reluctantly, Kakarot agreed to rest. For 3 days, Whis forbade him from training with the drones entirely, instead focusing on meditative practices and light physical exercise. Though initially restless, Kakarot gradually settled into the rhythm of these gentler activities, his perpetual tension slowly unwinding. On the 4th day, Whis brought him back to the training ground. Today, we try again. But differently. How? Kakarot asked. No goals. No deadlines. No expectations. Whis activated all 3 drones but set them to hover motionless. When you're ready, we'll begin. But not with the mindset of achievement, simply with the experience of being. Kakarot looked skeptical but took his position. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply, letting his awareness expand without forcing it. After several minutes, he nodded almost imperceptibly. Whis set the drones in motion with a subtle gesture. They began circling Kakarot, their movements random and unpredictable. The first pulse fired, and Kakarot's hand moved like water, catching it effortlessly. The second and third came simultaneously from opposite directions. Both were intercepted with precise, economical movements. For nearly 30 minutes, the exercise continued without a single miss. Kakarot moved as though dancing with the drones, his body responding to their attacks before they fully manifested. When Whis finally deactivated them, Kakarot opened his eyes, a look of wonder on his face. I didn't think about it at all, he marveled. My body just knew what to do. That is the essence of the technique, Whis nodded approvingly. Not forcing, but allowing. Not controlling, but harmonizing. So does this mean? Yes, Kakarot. You fulfilled the condition. We will spar tomorrow, as promised. Kakarot's face lit up with excitement, but there was something deeper in his expression too, a newfound understanding that transcended the simple achievement of his goal. He had glimpsed something profound in that state of effortless action, something that resonated beyond mere combat technique. Thank you, Whis, he said with unusual gravity. Not just for the spar, but for teaching me, well, everything. Whis found himself momentarily at a loss for words, touched by the sincerity in the boy's voice. You are a most apt pupil, he finally replied. It has been my privilege to guide your development. The next morning dawned clear and crisp, a perfect day for the long-awaited sparring match. Kakarot arrived at the training ground early, performing his warm-up routine with meticulous attention to detail. When Whis appeared, the young scion was already prepared, his expression a mixture of excitement and focus. Before we begin, Whis said, I want to clarify the parameters. This is not a battle, but a controlled demonstration. I will restrict myself to a level that challenges you without overwhelming you completely. I understand, Kakarot nodded. I'm not expecting to win. I just want to experience fighting you, to see how far I still have to go. A mature perspective, Whis approved. Very well then. Shall we begin? Kakarot settled into his fighting stance, centering himself as he'd been taught. Whis stood relaxed, his staff set aside for the first time in their training together. For a moment, neither moved, the silence between them charged with anticipation. Then, without warning, Kakarot attacked. He moved with extraordinary speed, his opening combination executed with flawless precision. Whis evaded with minimal movement, his expression unchanged as he analyzed Kakarot's approach. Good opening, he commented, deflecting a particularly well-aimed strike. But predictable after the third movement. Kakarot adjusted immediately, breaking his pattern and attacking from an unexpected angle. His adaptability had always been one of his greatest strengths, allowing him to evolve his tactics mid-fight. For several minutes, they exchanged techniques, Whis maintaining a defensive posture that allowed Kakarot to showcase his abilities. The young scion was impressive indeed, his speed, power, and technical execution all far beyond what most mortals could achieve. You've integrated the drone training into your combat style, Whis observed as Kakarot flowed around a counterattack with almost precognitive awareness. Excellent application. Kakarot didn't respond verbally, maintaining his focus as he pressed his attack. He was fighting at the absolute peak of his abilities, pushing himself beyond what he'd thought possible. And yet, it was abundantly clear that Whis was holding back enormously, moving just enough to avoid or redirect Kakarot's attacks without expending significant effort. After 15 minutes of increasingly intense exchanges, Whis decided it was time to demonstrate the true gap between them. Now, I will attack, he announced calmly. What followed was a lesson in humility. Whis moved with such speed and precision that Kakarot could barely track him, let alone defend effectively. Within seconds, the young scion found himself completely overwhelmed, his defenses systematically dismantled by techniques so advanced they seemed almost magical. The sparring match ended with Kakarot pinned to the ground, Whis's hand stopped just short of his forehead in what would have been a finishing blow. I believe that concludes our demonstration, Whis said, stepping back to allow Kakarot to rise. Instead of being discouraged by the one-sided outcome, Kakarot's eyes were alight with excitement. That was amazing. I couldn't even see half of what you did. You performed admirably given the disparity in our abilities, Whis assured him. Few beings in the universe could have lasted as long as you did. Kakarot jumped to his feet, his energy seemingly undiminished despite the thorough defeat. Can we do it again sometime? I learned so much just from those few minutes. Perhaps, Whis replied noncommittally. Though not too frequently. Such demonstrations are most valuable when properly spaced to allow for integration of the lessons learned. Fair enough. Kakarot stretched, working out the tension in muscles that had been pushed to their limits. I have a long way to go, don't I? Indeed. But you've already come further than most would have thought possible. Whis retrieved his staff, tapping it lightly against the ground. Your potential remains largely untapped, Kakarot. What you've accomplished so far is merely the beginning. Kakarot nodded, his expression thoughtful. I felt something during our match, when you were attacking me. It was like, a different kind of energy than what I'm used to. More refined, somehow. You sense divine energy, Whis explained. It differs fundamentally from mortal ki, operating on principles beyond typical physical laws. Can I learn to use it? Not in your current form. Divine energy requires a divine vessel. Whis studied Kakarot with renewed interest. Though your sensitivity to it is unusual for a mortal. Another indication of your exceptional potential. Kakarot absorbed this information with uncharacteristic quietness, his mind clearly racing with new questions and possibilities. The sparring match had opened his eyes to dimensions of power he hadn't previously comprehended, expanding his understanding of what might be possible. I want to keep getting stronger, he finally said. Not just physically, but, in every way. I want to understand all of it, mortal energy, divine energy, everything in between. Whis smiled, pleased by this broader perspective. A worthy ambition. And one that will take considerably longer than a single year to achieve. That's okay, Kakarot grinned. I've got time. As they walked back to the palace together, Whis reflected on the extraordinary journey they'd shared thus far. From the infant he'd impulsively rescued from space to this remarkable young warrior beside him, Kakarot's development had been a constant source of surprise and satisfaction. What heights might he eventually reach? The question was increasingly fascinating to contemplate. One thing was certain, the universe had no idea what was coming its way. At 17, Kakarot stood at the edge of Beerus's domain, gazing out at the vast cosmos beyond. His tall, muscular frame had matured into that of a young adult, his scion heritage evident in his powerful physique and the tail that still curled behind him. Years of intensive training under Whis had honed his natural abilities to extraordinary levels, yet he found himself increasingly restless, hungry for experiences beyond their isolated realm. Contemplating the universe again? Whis asked, appearing silently beside him. Yeah. Kakarot didn't startle, he'd sensed Whis's approach long before he materialized. I've been thinking a lot lately. About where I came from. About Earth, where I was supposed to go. Whis nodded thoughtfully. Such curiosity is natural. You've spent your entire life in Lord Beerus's domain, with only occasional visits to other realms under my supervision. I want to see more, Kakarot admitted. To test myself against different fighters, experience different worlds. He turned to face his mentor. Whis, is it time for me to go out on my own? At least for a while. The question had been building for months, perhaps years. Though Kakarot had never lacked for training challenges, Whis constantly devised new and increasingly difficult exercises. The limited social interaction and confined environment of Beerus's world had begun to feel constrictive to his developing spirit. Whis considered the question carefully. You believe yourself ready for independence? I think I need it, Kakarot said honestly. Not forever. Just, to learn things I can't learn here. To find out who I am beyond just your student. A journey of self-discovery, Whis mused. Not unlike what Lord Beerus undertook before assuming his current role. He tapped his staff against the ground thoughtfully. Your training has progressed remarkably well. Perhaps it is indeed time for you to experience the wider universe. Kakarot's face lit up. Really? You're okay with it? I believe it may be necessary for your continued growth, Whis acknowledged. Though there would be conditions, of course. Like what? You would need to maintain certain disciplines I've taught you. And you would need to return periodically to continue aspects of your training that cannot be pursued elsewhere. Absolutely, Kakarot agreed quickly. I don't want to stop training with you. I just want to expand my horizons. Whis nodded. Then I believe we can arrange it. Though I would suggest a structured approach rather than simply wandering aimlessly through space. What did you have in mind? A series of destinations selected to provide specific types of experiences. Whis waved his staff, creating a holographic map of the universe. Beginning, perhaps, with Earth, the planet that was to be your home. Kakarot stared at the small blue planet highlighted in the display. Earth, what's it like? A rather ordinary planet in many respects, though with some unusual features. Its inhabitants are generally quite weak by universal standards, but they've developed a surprising diversity of martial arts traditions. And there are a few individuals of note who might provide interesting challenges for you. When can I go? Patience, Kakarot, Whis admonished, though his tone was gentle. Before you embark on such a journey, there are preparations to be made. Knowledge to be imparted. Skills to be refined. Kakarot couldn't entirely hide his impatience but nodded in acceptance. What kind of preparations? For one, language. While your natural abilities allow you to assimilate languages quickly, you'll need at least basic familiarity with Earth's major tongues before arriving. I can learn that fast, Kakarot assured him. Indeed. There's also the matter of cultural context, understanding societal norms to avoid causing unnecessary disruption. You mean how to blend in? Kakarot laughed. Whis, I have a tail. I don't think I'm going to blend in no matter what. The tail could be concealed, Whis pointed out. Though your fighting abilities will be more difficult to disguise should you choose to use them. They spent the rest of the afternoon discussing the practical aspects of Kakarot's proposed journey. Whis was thorough in his planning, considering everything from transportation to accommodation to potential challenges Kakarot might face. Though he maintained his usual composed demeanor, there was an undercurrent of concern in his preparations, a protective instinct he rarely acknowledged even to himself. There is one more thing to consider, Whis said as their discussion drew to a close. Your name. My name? What about it? Kakarot is your scion designation. On Earth, it would be considered unusual. Kakarot frowned. So I should use a different name? It might facilitate easier integration, Whis suggested. Many cultures have practices of adopting new names at significant life transitions. Kakarot considered this. What would be a good Earth name? Whis consulted his staff briefly. Earth names vary widely by region. Perhaps something simple would be best. After a moment's contemplation, he offered, Goku. Goku, Kakarot repeated, testing the sound of it. Goku. I like it. It's short and easy to say. Then Goku it shall be, at least for your time among the Earthlings. Kakarot, now also Goku, grinned broadly. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see what Earth fighters are like. Remember that your purpose is not merely combat, Whis cautioned. True growth comes from understanding, not just confrontation. I know. Experience the culture, learn from different perspectives, all that stuff. Goku's excitement was palpable. But you can't blame me for looking forward to the fighting part too. Whis sighed with fond exasperation. Indeed not. It is, after all, in your nature. As the day ended and Goku headed off to begin his preparations, Whis remained at the edge of the domain, gazing out at the universe that would soon receive his unusual protege. There was pride in his contemplation, but also concern. Goku had grown powerful indeed under his tutelage, but the universe contained threats that even Whis could not fully anticipate. Be well, Kakarot, he murmured to the stars. And return wiser than you leave. Chapter 2, Worlds Beyond, again, Whis commanded, his voice calm but firm. Goku, still adjusting to his new Earth name, wiped sweat from his brow and reset his stance. At 21, he'd grown into his power in ways that sometimes surprised even Whis. The last 4 years had been transformative, pushing him beyond what either of them had imagined possible when he was that rebellious teenager begging to spar with his mentor. Focus on maintaining the aura without fluctuation, Whis instructed, circling around him. Divine energy responds to intention more than effort. Goku closed his eyes, centering himself. The pale blue energy surrounding his body steadied, becoming almost glass-like in its clarity. This wasn't Saiyan Ki, this was something different, something he'd spent years learning to channel in small amounts. Better, Whis nodded. Now, extend it outward while maintaining the same density. The aura expanded slowly, precisely, until it formed a perfect sphere around Goku. Not a flicker of instability disrupted its surface. Excellent progress, Whis said. You've finally mastered basic divine energy manipulation. It's quite remarkable for a mortal, even one with your particular background. Goku let the aura dissipate. And grinned. Does this mean I'm ready? Whis raised an eyebrow. Ready for what, precisely? You know what, Goku replied, bouncing slightly on his toes with barely contained excitement. Lord Beerus is waking up soon. You promised I could accompany you on your duties once I mastered divine energy basics. Ah yes, that promise. Whis tapped his staff thoughtfully against the ground. I suppose you have met the conditions we established. The excitement on Goku's face was almost childlike, despite his now adult features. Finally. Real adventures beyond training exercises. I wouldn't characterize our duties as adventures, Whis cautioned. Accompanying the god of destruction is a serious responsibility. I know. Goku waved away the concern. But we'll be traveling to different planets, meeting new people, trying new foods, and maybe finding some strong fighters along the way. Whis sighed, but there was fondness in the sound. Your priorities remain consistent, at least. A low, rumbling sound suddenly echoed through the air, causing both of them to look toward the palace. Speaking of consistent. Whis murmured. It seems Lord Beerus is stirring earlier than anticipated. Goku's eyes widened. Really? Now? Indeed. His awakening cycle has been somewhat erratic lately. Whis straightened his robes. We should prepare. The first day after a long sleep is always delicate. Goku followed Whis toward the palace, barely containing his excitement. After years of training and waiting, he was finally going to meet the legendary god of destruction, and potentially see worlds beyond Beerus's realm for the first time. Remember, Whis cautioned as they approached Beerus's chambers, Lord Beerus can be temperamental upon waking. Speak only when spoken to, and do not, under any circumstances, challenge him to combat. I'm not stupid, Goku protested, though the thought had definitely crossed his mind. No, but you are a Saiyan, Whis replied dryly. Your instinct to test yourself against powerful opponents has only grown stronger with age. Goku couldn't really argue with that. The desire to measure himself against increasingly powerful opponents had become a defining drive in his life, one that Whis had channeled into structured training but had never managed to fully suppress. The doors to Beerus's sleeping chamber slid open, releasing a warm, musty air scented with something ancient and powerful. Inside, amid floating debris and swirling energy, a thin, purple figure stretched languidly, yawning to reveal impressive fangs. Whis, the figure grumbled, what year is it? You've slept for approximately 39 years, my lord, Whis answered promptly. A relatively short nap by your standards. Beerus scratched behind one ear, his eyes still half closed. Something woke me. A dream about fighting someone strong. His gaze suddenly sharpened as it landed on Goku. Who is this? Goku fought the urge to introduce himself, remembering Whis's warning about speaking only when addressed directly. This is Goku, my lord, Whis said. The Saiyan child I mentioned some time ago. He has been under my tutelage while you slept. Beerus floated closer, studying Goku with newfound interest. Ah yes, your little project. Not so little anymore, I see. He circled Goku slowly, sniffing occasionally. Interesting. You've taught him to channel divine energy. In small amounts, yes. He's shown remarkable aptitude. Has he now? Beerus's eyes narrowed. And what else has he learned in my absence? Various combat techniques, energy manipulation, limited precognitive abilities. Can he cook? Beerus interrupted. The question caught both Whis and Goku off guard. I require sustenance, Beerus explained irritably. 39 years is a long time without food. I've prepared a welcoming feast, my lord, Whis assured him. All your favorites, including that pudding you enjoyed before your last slumber. Beerus's ears perked up. Pudding. The wobbly sweet substance. Precisely. Excellent. Beerus floated past them toward the dining hall, his initial interest in Goku apparently forgotten in favor of more immediate concerns. Whis gestured for Goku to follow. Food first, he whispered. Questions later. The welcoming feast turned out to be a spread that would have fed an army, which was appropriate, given Beerus's appetite after his long sleep. Goku, no slouch in the eating department himself, watched in amazement as the god of destruction worked his way through dish after dish. This is acceptable, Beerus declared between bites, which Goku had learned from Whis was high praise indeed. As the meal progressed, Beerus occasionally glanced at Goku with curious eyes. Finally, after demolishing what appeared to be his 20th course, the deity addressed him directly. So, Scion. Whis tells me you're strong. Goku, mouth full of food, swallowed quickly. I've trained hard, Lord Beerus. Beerus licked his claws clean. Not the typical Scion response. Most would boast about their power. Goku has had an atypical upbringing for a Scion, Whis interjected smoothly. Clearly. Beerus studied Goku more intently. Tell me, boy, do you know what happened to your race? The question landed heavily in the room. Goku set down his chopsticks, his expression sobering. Whis told me planet Vegeta was destroyed by someone named Frieza, he answered. Most Scions died with it. Most, but not all, Beerus noted. Frieza kept a few as pets. The prince, I believe, and some others. Goku's eyes widened slightly. There are other Scions alive. Last I checked, yes. Though that was before my nap. Beerus turned to Whis. Are they still around? Whis consulted his staff briefly. Indeed. Prince Vegeta serves in Frieza's forces, along with a small contingent of Scion survivors. They've been conducting planetary conquests in the Eastern Quadrant. A strange feeling worked its way through Goku's chest, something between excitement and unease. Other Scions. People like him, at least biologically. He'd grown up knowing he was different, special in some way, but the abstract knowledge of his heritage had never felt particularly real until this moment. You're curious about them, Beerus observed, his feline eyes missing nothing. Natural, I suppose. Though you should know that typical Scions would find you rather soft. Soft? Goku frowned. Scion culture valued brutality, conquest, and raw power above all else, Whis explained. Your training has emphasized discipline, technique, and spiritual development, concepts most Scions would dismiss as weaknesses. Goku absorbed this information thoughtfully. Would you allow me to meet them someday? The other Scions? Beerus snorted. Allow. Boy, I don't control your social calendar. He paused, considering. Though I suppose we might encounter them eventually during my inspection tours. Frieza occasionally provides entertainment when I visit that sector. Whis cleared his throat delicately. Speaking of which, my lord, now that you're awake, there are several matters requiring your attention. The Supreme Kai has sent several messages, boring, Beerus declared, reaching for a colorful dessert. We'll deal with all that tedium later. First, I want to see what your student can do. He fixed Goku with a penetrating stare. You've been raised in my domain, trained by my attendant. Show me it wasn't a waste of resources. Goku straightened, excitement bubbling up despite his attempt to remain composed. How would you like me to demonstrate, Lord Beerus? A simple spar should suffice. With Whis, not me, Beerus clarified, noting the hopeful look in Goku's eyes. I don't fight for exhibition. Though slightly disappointed, Goku nodded respectfully. I understand. After dessert, of course, Beerus added, turning his attention back to the meal. Everything in its proper order. As they finished eating, Goku found his mind racing with possibilities. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, a chance to show his progress not just to Whis, but to the god of destruction himself. And perhaps, if he impressed Beerus enough, it might open the door to those worlds beyond, to meeting other Scions, to testing himself against the universe at large. The demonstration spar, when it finally began, was unlike any of their previous training sessions. Whis fought with greater intensity, clearly wanting to showcase Goku's abilities properly. For his part, Goku held nothing back, employing every technique he'd mastered over the years. Beerus watched from a floating platform, his expression inscrutable as the two combatants moved at speeds that would have been invisible to most mortal eyes. Goku's fighting style had evolved into something unique, Scion power and instinct blended seamlessly with divine precision and technique. He couldn't match Whis for raw ability, of course, but he responded to his mentor's attacks with increasingly sophisticated counters. Enough, Beerus called after about 20 minutes. I've seen sufficient. Goku and Whis separated, both barely breathing hard despite the intensity of their exchange. Well? Whis inquired, adjusting his robes casually. Your assessment, my lord. Beerus descended from his platform, landing lightly before Goku. He circled the Scion once more, this time with a more evaluative eye. Interesting, he finally said. You've given him a solid foundation. His energy control is unusually refined for a mortal, and his adaptability is impressive. There's potential there. Raw, unfinished potential, but potential nonetheless. Coming from Beerus, this was extravagant praise. Goku bowed respectfully, though he couldn't quite suppress the grin tugging at his lips. Thank you, Lord Beerus. Don't thank me yet, boy. Beerus waved a dismissive hand. You're still nowhere near the level of a proper challenge. But. He glanced at Whis, I suppose he's earned the right to accompany us on our duties. He might prove useful, or at least entertaining. Goku's heart leapt. This was exactly what he'd hoped for, a chance to finally see the universe beyond their isolated realm. When do we leave? He asked eagerly. Beerus yawned, stretching his arms above his head. After a nap. Whis chuckled at Goku's crestfallen expression. A short nap, my lord. Perhaps just an hour or two. Fine, fine, Beerus grumbled. Wake me for our departure. And have more pudding ready when you do. As Beerus padded off toward his chambers, Goku turned to Whis with barely contained excitement. Did that really just happen? He's actually letting me come along. Indeed, Whis confirmed. Though I advise tempering your enthusiasm. Lord Beerus's inspection tours can be unpredictable. That's what makes it exciting. Goku bounced on his toes. Where will we go first? Will we visit Frisia's territory? Maybe Earth? Our itinerary will be determined by Lord Beerus's whims, Whis cautioned. And his primary interests typically revolve around food, sleep, and occasional destruction. Still, Goku insisted, it's my chance to finally see the universe, to meet other warriors, to test myself against new challenges. Whis regarded his student with a mixture of pride and concern. Just remember your training, particularly regarding restraint. The beings we encounter will not be like the training constructs you're accustomed to. Real people, real consequences. I understand, Goku assured him, his expression sobering. I won't let you down. Whis nodded, hoping that Goku truly did understand the complexities of the wider universe they were about to enter. The Scion had grown remarkably under his guidance, but there were some lessons that could only be learned through experience, sometimes painful experience. Prepare yourself, Whis advised. Our first journey begins soon. True to form, Beerus's inspection tour seemed primarily guided by his gastronomic interests. Their first destination was planet Zuno, renowned for its sweet delicacies and oracular knowledge. While Beerus consulted with the planet's oversized head-shaped oracle about culinary trends in the universe, Goku found himself fascinated by the world's unusual architecture and diverse inhabitants. Stay close, Whis instructed as they wandered through a bustling marketplace. And remember, we're here as observers, not participants. Goku nodded, though his eyes darted everywhere, taking in the dizzying array of alien species. Some appeared almost humanoid, while others defied categorization entirely, floating crystalline structures, amorphous light patterns, beings that seemed to exist partially in other dimensions. There are so many different types of people, he marveled. And they all just live together. The universe is vast and varied, Whis replied. What you're seeing here is but a tiny fraction of the diversity it contains. A commotion near one of the food stalls caught their attention. Two large, reptilian beings were confronting a smaller vendor, their postures clearly threatening. Protection payments increased, one of them growled. New management, new rates. But I've already paid for this month, the vendor protested, backing away nervously. I can't afford more. Goku tensed, instinctively moving toward the confrontation, but Whis placed a restraining hand on his shoulder. We are not here to interfere in local disputes, he murmured. But they're bullying that vendor, Goku protested quietly. It's not right. The universe contains much that isn't right, by your standards, Whis replied. If we intervened in every injustice we encountered, we would never complete our actual duties. Goku frowned, clearly uncomfortable with this perspective. So we just watch. In this instance, yes. There are proper authorities on this world for such matters. Whis nodded toward a group of uniformed officials approaching the scene. See. The situation resolves itself without our intervention. The reptilian thugs noticed the officials and quickly retreated, leaving the vendor visibly relieved. Goku relaxed slightly, but the incident had highlighted a fundamental tension he hadn't fully considered before. If he had power, increasingly significant power, didn't that come with some responsibility to use it? You're troubled, Whis observed as they continued their walk. I just don't understand why having strength means nothing if you don't use it to help others, Goku admitted. Whis considered this thoughtfully. An admirable sentiment, though perhaps a naive one. The cosmos operates on principles of balance, not morality as mortals conceive it. Even destruction, Lord Beerus's domain, serves a necessary function in the universal order. But that doesn't mean we should ignore suffering right in front of us, Goku countered. No, Whis conceded. But it does mean we must be selective in our interventions, lest we disrupt patterns beyond our understanding. This philosophical exchange was interrupted by Beerus's return, the god of destruction looking irritated despite the confection he was consuming. Zuno has become tediously political, he complained. All that nonsense about proper petition formats before answering simple questions about dessert trends. The Oracle has always been particular about protocol, my lord, Whis reminded him. Well, it's annoying. Beerus finished his treat with a decisive bite. Let's move on. I want to check on that Nova fried cuisine in the Andromeda sector. And so their journey continued, planet to planet, system to system. Goku absorbed each new experience with enthusiasm, though he found the role of silent observer increasingly difficult to maintain. Everywhere they went, he saw potential connections, interesting people, opportunities to learn and grow that were limited by their brief visits and Beerus's narrow interests. After their 12th destination, a water world whose floating restaurants had disappointed Beerus enough to warrant the destruction of a small, uninhabited moon, Goku finally voiced his growing restlessness. Whis, he asked as they traveled through the space between worlds, will we ever stay somewhere long enough to really experience it? That depends on Lord Beerus's whims, Whis replied. Though I sense you have a specific request in mind. Goku nodded. I want to visit Earth. Earth? Beerus's ears twitched, having overheard despite appearing to be napping. That backwater? Why? It was supposed to be my home, Goku explained. If Whis hadn't intercepted my pod, that's where I would have grown up. I'm curious about it. Beerus yawned widely. Sounds boring. What's Earth got that's worth visiting? Any decent food? Whis consulted his staff. Earth's cuisine is actually quite diverse and inventive, my lord. They have a particular specialty called pizza that might interest you, cheese, sauce, and various toppings on a bread base. Cheese. Beerus perked up slightly. The milk-derived substance. I suppose we could make a brief stop. It's not too far out of our way to the Galactic Central Archives. Goku could barely contain his excitement. Really? We can go. Don't make me regret it, Beerus warned. If their food is disappointing, I might have to express my dissatisfaction. I'm sure Earth's cuisine will meet your standards, my lord, Whis said smoothly. Their culinary arts have been developing for thousands of years. Beerus settled back, apparently satisfied with this assurance. Very well. Earth it is. But just a short visit. As they changed course, Goku felt a strange anticipation building within him. Earth, the blue planet he'd seen in Whis's projections, the world that might have shaped him into someone entirely different. What would he find there? What kind of fighters might it harbor? And would he feel any connection to this planet that had been his intended destination so long ago? The journey to Earth took less than an hour with Whis's dimensional manipulation. As the blue-green sphere grew larger in their view, Goku leaned forward, studying it with intense curiosity. It's beautiful, he murmured. Many inhabited worlds are, Whis noted. Though Earth is particularly rich in diverse ecosystems. And hopefully rich in decent food, Beerus added. I'm developing an appetite again. They descended toward the planet's surface, aiming for a large city on one of the continents. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, Goku felt a strange sensation, almost like recognition, though he had no memory of this world. What a peculiar energy signature this planet has, Whis remarked. Quite vibrant for a world of its development level. They landed in what appeared to be a park within the city, causing immediate commotion among the humans nearby. Most fled at the sight of three beings descending from the sky, though a few braver souls remained at a distance, recording the event with small devices. Primitive, Beerus sniffed. But not unpleasant. The air quality is acceptable. Goku was too busy taking everything in to respond. The humans looked so much like him, the same basic form, though none had tails. Their energy signatures were generally weak, but there was something familiar about them, something that resonated with him on a level he couldn't quite articulate. I suggest we find a reputable dining establishment, Whis proposed. Perhaps one of those. He pointed to a row of restaurants across from the park. As they made their way toward the eating venues, Goku noticed he was drawing curious stares, not just because of his arrival with Whis and Beerus, but specifically directed at his tail. They're looking at me weird, he muttered to Whis. Humans don't have tails, Whis reminded him. You appear human otherwise, so the tail marks you as different. Should I hide it? That might be prudent for extended interaction, but for a brief visit, it's unnecessary. They entered a restaurant called Giovanni's Authentic Italian, where their unusual appearance caused a momentary hush before the staff recovered their professional demeanor. A nervous host showed them to a table, handing them menus with slightly trembling hands. What is this pizza you mentioned? Beerus demanded, scanning the unfamiliar options. The host pointed to a section of the menu. Our specialty, sir. We have over 20 varieties, or you can create your own combination. Bring us a selection of your best, Whis instructed, smiling pleasantly. And perhaps some of those appetizers as well. As the host rushed off to place their order, Goku continued observing the humans around them. Families, couples, friends, all engaged in ordinary interactions that nonetheless fascinated him. Their movements, expressions, and energy signatures painted a picture of a species that lived short but emotionally rich lives. They seem happy, he observed. Even though they're not very strong. Power and contentment are not necessarily correlated, Whis noted. Often quite the opposite, in fact. Their food arrived, an impressive array of pizzas, pasta dishes, and appetizers that immediately captured Beerus's attention. The god of destruction approached the unfamiliar cuisine with cautious optimism, taking a small bite of a pizza slice. His eyes widened. This is acceptable. He took a larger bite. More than acceptable. The combination of flavors is quite interesting. Goku tried a slice himself and broke into a wide grin. This is amazing. He began consuming pizza at a rate that drew astonished looks from nearby diners. Mind your manners, Whis admonished quietly. We don't want to draw more attention than necessary. Goku slowed down slightly, but his enthusiasm for the food remained undiminished. They worked their way through the entire spread, with Beerus declaring the experience worthy of not destroying the establishment. As they were finishing their meal, a commotion outside drew their attention. Through the window, they could see people running, and in the distance, smoke rising from several buildings. What's happening? Goku asked a passing waiter. Some kind of attack downtown, the man replied nervously. They're saying on the news it's aliens or monsters or something. The military's been called in. Goku stood immediately. I want to see. Goku, Whis cautioned, remember our discussion about intervention. I just want to look, Goku insisted. I won't interfere unless it's really necessary. Beerus waved a dismissive hand. Let him go. It might be entertaining to see how he handles himself among these weaklings. Whis sighed but nodded. Very well. But exercise extreme caution. Your power level is far beyond anything this world is accustomed to dealing with. Goku nodded and headed for the door, his curiosity and sense of responsibility driving him forward. As he stepped outside, he concentrated briefly, then shot into the air, flying rapidly toward the source of the disturbance. The scene that greeted him was chaotic. Several armored beings, clearly not human, were systematically destroying buildings and firing energy weapons at fleeing civilians. Earth's military forces were attempting to respond, but their conventional weapons seemed ineffective against the invaders' technology. Hovering high enough to remain unnoticed, Goku observed the situation with growing concern. These weren't just random attackers, they were methodical, coordinated, searching for something or someone. His sharp hearing picked up fragments of their communications, must be here somewhere, energy signature. Lord Friesia's orders, find the artifact. Friesia. The name sent a chill through Goku. The being responsible for destroying planet Vegeta, for nearly exterminating the Saiyan race. And now his forces were here, on Earth, endangering innocent people. One of the invaders cornered a group of humans who had been unable to escape a collapsed building. The alien raised his weapon, clearly intending to eliminate the witnesses. Goku's restraint shattered. Before he could even process the decision, he was moving, dropping from the sky to land between the alien and the humans. The impact cracked the pavement beneath his feet. That's enough, he said firmly. The alien stared at him in shock, then recovered enough to sneer. Another pathetic earthling. Move aside, or join them in death. Goku didn't budge. I said, that's enough. Leave these people alone and get off this planet. The alien laughed and fired his weapon directly at Goku's chest. The energy blast hit him squarely, and dissipated harmlessly against his aura. What? The alien stumbled back, raising his communication device. Unknown combatant with energy manipulation abilities. Requesting backup. Within moments, the other invaders converged on Goku's position, surrounding him with weapons ready. The humans behind him watched in terrified fascination. "Whoever you are, you've made a serious mistake," the apparent leader of the group said. "This planet is being claimed in the name of Lord Frisia. Resistance is pointless." "I don't care who you work for," Goku replied, his voice hardening. "You're hurting innocent people, and I'm asking you nicely to stop." "Asking nicely?" The leader laughed. "Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? We are the advance forces of the Frisia Force, the most powerful army in the universe." Goku's expression remained calm, but his energy began to rise subtly. "Last chance. Leave peacefully." Instead of responding, the leader signaled his troops, and they all fired simultaneously, a barrage of energy blasts that engulfed Goku completely, destroying the street around him and setting nearby buildings ablaze. When the smoke cleared, Goku stood untouched at the center of a perfect circle of destruction. His aura was now visible, a controlled flame of energy that radiated power without wasteful display. "My turn," he said simply. What followed was less a battle than a demonstration. Goku moved with such speed that most of the invaders couldn't track him, disabling their weapons and incapacitating them with precise strikes that rendered them unconscious without causing permanent harm. His control was absolute, no wasted movement, no excessive force, just efficient neutralization of the threat. Within minutes, all the invaders were down except the leader, who stared at Goku with dawning horror. What are you?" he gasped. Goku approached him slowly. "Someone who doesn't like bullies. Now, you're going to tell me exactly why Frisia's forces are on Earth." The alien backed away. I can't. Lord Frisia would kill me." "I'm right here," Goku pointed out. "He's not." Something in Goku's calm certainty broke the alien's resolve. "We're searching for an artifact, an ancient technology supposedly hidden on this world. Something called the Oracle Sphere. Lord Frisia believes it can locate objects of power across the universe. And you thought destroying a city was the way to find it? We were ordered to create enough chaos to draw out any warriors who might be protecting it," the alien admitted. "This planet isn't supposed to have anyone powerful enough to challenge us." Goku's expression hardened. "Well, you found a warrior. Now take your people and go. Tell Frisia that Earth is under protection." "Under whose protection?" the alien demanded. "Who should I say defeated us?" Goku considered the question. "Tell him it was a scion." The alien's eyes widened in shock. "A scion?" But there, his gaze fixed on Goku's tail, which had unconsciously unwrapped from his waist during the confrontation. "Impossible. The scions are controlled by Lord Frisia." "Not this one," Goku said firmly. "Now go, before I change my mind about letting you leave." The alien scrambled backward, activating a device on his wrist. He and his unconscious companions disappeared in flashes of light, presumably teleported back to their ship. As the immediate threat disappeared, Goku became aware of the humans gathering around him, staring with expressions ranging from fear to awe. Cameras were pointed at him from multiple directions, and he could hear the approaching sirens of emergency vehicles. "Are you all right?" he asked the group he had directly protected. They nodded mutely, still too shocked to speak. "Good." He turned to address the growing crowd. "Those aliens are gone now, but they might come back with reinforcements. Your world should prepare." Before anyone could question him further, Goku rose into the air, drawing gasps from the onlookers. He flew quickly back toward the restaurant, where he found Whis and Beerus waiting outside, the god of destruction looking faintly amused. "Well, that was dramatic," Beerus remarked. "So much for observing without interfering." "They were hurting innocent people," Goku defended. "And they work for Frisia, they're looking for some kind of artifact." "The Oracle Sphere," Whis nodded. "Yes, I overheard through my staff." A concerning development. That particular artifact was hidden on Earth precisely because of its obscurity. You knew about it? Goku asked, surprised. Of course. The Oracle Sphere is one of several ancient technologies created by the primordials. It's been dormant for millennia, its location known only to a few cosmic entities. And now Frisia's after it. Goku frowned. I told them Earth is protected, but I doubt that'll stop him for long. Indeed not, Whis agreed. Frisia is not known for accepting setbacks gracefully. Beerus yawned widely. This is becoming tedious. I came for food, not political complications. He glanced at Goku. Though I must admit, your handling of those weaklings was moderately entertaining. Efficient, at least. Thank you. Goku wasn't entirely sure if that was a compliment. We should depart, Whis advised. Your intervention has already created quite a stir. Earth's media appears to be broadcasting images of your confrontation globally. Goku looked back toward the city, conflicted. He'd only just arrived on this world that might have been his home, and already he felt a strange connection to it and its people, a sense of responsibility he hadn't anticipated. What about the Oracle Sphere? He asked. We can't just leave it for Frisia to find. The artifact is well hidden, Whis assured him. And now that we're aware of Frisia's interest, we can monitor the situation. Still, Goku hesitated. I feel like I should stay longer. Learn more about this place. An interesting sentiment, Whis observed. But perhaps not practical at this moment. Lord Beerus's schedule, oh, fine, Beerus interrupted with obvious irritation. We'll come back to this mudball later if you're so attached to it. The food was decent enough to warrant a second visit anyway. Goku brightened. Really? Don't make me repeat myself, Beerus grumbled. Now, let's continue to the archives. I want to check on that rumor about the legendary sunspice from the Centaurus cluster. As they prepared to depart, Goku took one last look at Earth, at its blue skies, its varied landscapes, its resilient people. Something about this world called to him on a fundamental level, as if recognizing a connection that transcended his unusual upbringing. I'll be back, he murmured, too quietly for the others to hear. It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was a promise. Their journey continued for several months, taking them across multiple galaxies. Goku absorbed each new experience eagerly, though his thoughts often returned to Earth and the threatened invasion by Frisia's forces. Whis assured him they would monitor the situation, but the angel's definition of monitoring seemed far less active than Goku would have preferred. Everything changed, however, when they reached the edges of Frisia's empire. Beerus had decided to pay what he called a courtesy visit to the galactic tyrant, though Whis privately explained to Goku that such visits were primarily to remind Frisia of his place in the cosmic hierarchy. Lord Frisia isn't technically under Lord Beerus's jurisdiction, Whis explained as they approached a massive space station that served as one of Frisia's administrative centers. But it's useful to occasionally remind him that there are powers in the universe that exceed even his considerable strength. And he just accepts that? Goku asked, finding it hard to reconcile the destroyer of worlds he'd heard about with someone who would tolerate such visits. He's arrogant, not suicidal, Whis replied. Frisia understands the role of the gods of destruction in the cosmic order. He may not like it, but he respects it out of necessity. Beerus yawned, seemingly bored with the approaching encounter. Frisia is tedious with his obsequious behavior. Always putting on that false politeness while plotting behind everyone's back. But his empire does produce some interesting culinary innovations, so I tolerate him. They were met at the station's landing bay by an honor guard of Frisia's elite soldiers, who escorted them with elaborate ceremony to a grand reception hall. Goku, walking slightly behind Whis and Beerus, observed everything with careful attention. The soldiers were strong by ordinary standards, far stronger than the advance force he'd encountered on Earth, but still well below his own capabilities. The reception hall doors slid open to reveal a lavishly decorated chamber. At its center, seated on a hovering throne, was Frieza himself. Smaller than Goku had imagined, the tyrant had an appearance that belied his reputation, pale, almost delicate features that nonetheless emanated cold malevolence. "Lord Beerus," Frieza greeted, his voice smooth and cultured. "What an unexpected honor. Had I known you were coming, I would have prepared a more suitable welcome." "Spare me the formalities, Frieza." Beerus replied lazily. "I'm just passing through on my inspection tour. Thought I'd check if your chefs have improved since my last visit." Of course, of course." Frieza's gaze shifted to Goku, narrowing slightly. "And who is this? A new attendant? I wasn't aware angels had assistants." "This is Goku," Whis introduced. "He is under my tutelage and accompanies us on Lord Beerus's orders." Frieza studied Goku more intently, his eyes eventually fixing on the tail wrapped around Goku's waist. "A scion? How unusual. I was under the impression that the remaining scions were all in my service." "Evidently not," Beerus said dismissively. "Now, about that meal you mentioned." Frieza gestured, and servants immediately began setting up an elaborate banquet. But his gaze kept returning to Goku, calculation evident in his expression. "Tell me, Scion," he finally addressed Goku directly. "How did you come to serve Lord Beerus? Your kind aren't known for their refinement." Before Goku could respond, another figure entered the hall, a shorter, muscular man with flame-like black hair and a permanent scowl. He wore armor similar to Frieza's soldiers but carried himself with obvious pride and barely contained aggression. "Lord Frieza, the reports from the Andromeda sector," he stopped abruptly, his eyes locking on Goku. "What is this? Another scion?" "Ah, Prince Vegeta," Frieza smiled thinly. "Perfect timing. Yes, it seems Lord Beerus has his own scion pet. Quite the coincidence." Goku and Vegeta stared at each other with mutual fascination. Here was another survivor of his race, not just any survivor, but its prince. The connection was immediate and visceral, though not entirely positive. Vegeta's energy signature radiated pride, anger, and something darker, a festering resentment that seemed to permeate his being. "I didn't think there were any scions left outside Frieza's army," Goku said, breaking the tense silence. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. "There aren't supposed to be. Who are you? What class?" "Class?" Goku looked confused. "Your designation, fool. Elite? Mid-class? Low class?" Goku shrugged. "I don't know. I was sent from planet Vegeta as a baby. Whis intercepted my pod before I reached my destination." This explanation seemed to irritate Vegeta further. "Sent as a baby? Then you were low class, destined for some frontier world conquest. Yet now you stand with a god of destruction." His voice dripped with disbelief and disdain. "Fate takes interesting turns," Whis commented mildly. "Indeed it does," Frieza agreed, his calculating gaze moving between the two scions. "Prince Vegeta, perhaps you should join us for this banquet. I'm sure you and Goku, was it? Have much to discuss about your shared heritage." Vegeta looked like he would rather do anything else, but he nodded stiffly. "As you wish, Lord Frieza." The meal that followed was tense, to say the least. Beerus focused entirely on the food, occasionally commenting on its quality or lack thereof. Whis maintained a diplomatic presence, smoothing over awkward moments with practiced ease. Frieza observed everyone with calculated interest, particularly the two scions. Goku attempted several times to engage Vegeta in conversation, but the prince responded with minimal, cutting remarks. It was clear that Vegeta viewed Goku with a mixture of suspicion and contempt, a low-class scion who had somehow lucked into a position Vegeta considered above his station. "So you've never actually fought in a real war?" Vegeta finally asked, his tone making it clear what he thought of this deficiency. "Not a war," Goku admitted. "But I've trained with Whis since I was a child." I've fought plenty of powerful opponents. Vegeta scoffed. Training is not combat. Real battle, the kind that forges true warriors, comes with stakes. With consequences. Something a pampered pet of the gods wouldn't understand. Perhaps a demonstration would be informative, Frieza suggested smoothly. A friendly contest between Saiyans. For entertainment purposes, of course. Vegeta's eyes gleamed at the suggestion, while Goku looked to Whis questioningly. It's not my place to forbid it, Whis said carefully. Though I would advise restraint from both parties. Restraint is for the weak, Vegeta declared. If we fight, it should be a true test. Fine by me, Goku agreed, excitement building despite himself. Here was a chance to measure himself against another Saiyan, against the prince of their race. Just tell me when and where. The central arena, Frieza decided. After the banquet. I'll invite some of my officers to observe. It's not often we get to witness Saiyans of different upbringings test their mettle against each other. Beerus, who had been focused on a particularly elaborate dessert, finally looked up. If you insist on this spectacle, Frieza, just ensure it doesn't disrupt my meal or my nap afterward. Saiyan battles tend to be destructively flamboyant. Of course, Lord Beerus. We have containment fields specifically designed for high-power combat. As the meal concluded, Goku found himself increasingly eager for the coming confrontation. Not out of animosity toward Vegeta, but from genuine curiosity about how a traditionally raised Saiyan warrior would compare to his own unusual development. The arena turned out to be a massive circular platform surrounded by energy barriers and observation decks. By the time they arrived, word had spread throughout the station, and the viewing areas were packed with Frieza's soldiers and officers, all eager to witness the unusual match. The rules are simple, Frieza announced from his private viewing box. Fight until one of you yields or is unable to continue. The containment field will prevent any damage to the station, so feel free to use your full abilities. Goku and Vegeta took positions at opposite ends of the arena. Vegeta removed his upper armor, revealing a muscular physique covered in battle scars. His expression was one of absolute confidence bordering on arrogance. Don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're untested, he called across the arena. I'll show you the difference between an elite warrior and whatever it is you think you are. Goku simply smiled, settling into his fighting stance, the balanced, centered position Whis had drilled into him over years of training. I'm looking forward to it. From his observation point beside Beerus, Whis watched with interest. This should be quite revealing, he murmured. Revealing of what? Beerus asked, already looking bored. The prince is strong for a Saiyan, but he's no match for your student. True, but the manner of victory often teaches more than the victory itself, Whis replied cryptically. A signal sounded, and the match began. Vegeta wasted no time, launching himself at Goku with impressive speed, his opening attack a complex combination of strikes aimed at vital points. His technique was polished, clearly honed through years of actual combat. Goku evaded the entire sequence with minimal movement, his expression calm and evaluative. This obviously infuriated Vegeta, who intensified his assault, adding energy-enhanced strikes that would have crippled most opponents. Fight back, damn you, he snarled when Goku continued to dodge without counter-attacking. I'm just getting a feel for your style, Goku explained, which only seemed to anger Vegeta further. The prince backed off suddenly, his aura flaring bright blue around him. If you won't take this seriously, then perhaps this will change your mind. With a shout, his power level surged dramatically, and his hair shifted from black to a brilliant golden hue. Gasps echoed through the observation decks. The legendary Super Saiyan transformation, someone whispered loudly enough to be heard throughout the arena. Goku's eyes widened with genuine surprise. That's amazing. I didn't know Saiyans could do that. Vegeta smirked, golden energy crackling around him. This is the pinnacle of Saiyan evolution, a level achieved only through relentless battle and absolute necessity. Something a sheltered trainee could never understand. Can you teach me how to do it? Goku asked with sincere enthusiasm. The question seemed to catch Vegeta completely off guard. What? The golden transformation. It feels like pure concentrated energy. I want to learn it. Vegeta's expression darkened. It's not something that can be taught, fool. It's earned through blood and suffering. He charged forward with renewed fury, his enhanced speed and power creating shockwaves with each attack. This time, Goku responded in kind, meeting Vegeta's assault with precise counters that began to expose gaps in the prince's technique. Despite the Super Saiyan transformation's impressive power boost, Vegeta's fighting style relied heavily on overwhelming force rather than efficiency, a stark contrast to Goku's economical approach. As the battle progressed, the difference in their training became increasingly apparent. Vegeta fought with everything he had, unleashing devastating attacks that showcased his tremendous raw power. Goku, meanwhile, seemed to be operating well within his capabilities, responding with just enough force to match Vegeta without overwhelming him completely. In the observation box, Frieza watched with growing unease. The prince appears to be struggling, he noted to his advisors. Despite his transformation. Beside Beerus, Whis nodded approvingly. Goku is showing admirable restraint. He could have ended this already but is allowing the prince to demonstrate his abilities fully. Boring, Beerus yawned. Tell your student to finish it before I fall asleep. Back in the arena, Vegeta was becoming visibly frustrated. Despite his transformation and increasingly desperate attacks, he couldn't land a solid hit on Goku, who continued to counter with irritating precision. Fight me properly. Vegeta demanded, his golden aura flaring with his anger. Stop holding back. Goku paused, creating a momentary break in the action. Are you sure? I don't want to, don't patronize me. Vegeta spat. I am the prince of all Saiyans. Show me your true power. Goku nodded, his expression sobering. All right. But remember, you asked for this. He centered himself, and his energy began to rise, not in the explosive manner of Vegeta's transformation, but in a controlled, focused wave that radiated outward with increasing intensity. The difference was immediately apparent to everyone watching. Where Vegeta's power was fiery and volatile, Goku's was calm and precisely directed. It didn't explode outward but rather concentrated inward, an economy of force that belied its tremendous magnitude. When Goku moved again, it was with such speed that Vegeta couldn't track him. One moment he was standing several meters away, the next he was behind the prince, a single finger pressed against Vegeta's back. This is what Whis taught me, Goku said quietly. Power isn't about how much energy you release, it's about how effectively you use what you have. Vegeta whirled, throwing a desperate punch that Goku caught effortlessly in his palm. The impact created a shockwave that reverberated throughout the arena, but Goku himself didn't move an inch. What followed was less a continuation of the fight than a demonstration. Goku systematically dismantled Vegeta's defenses, countering every attack with minimal effort and responding with precisely calibrated strikes that wore down the prince's stamina without causing serious injury. By the time Goku finally put Vegeta down with a clean strike to the solar plexus, the prince's golden transformation had faded, leaving him gasping on his knees, his pride clearly wounded more than his body. How? Vegeta demanded between labored breaths. How is a low-class nobody this powerful? Goku offered his hand. It's not about class. It's about training, about understanding energy at its fundamental level. Whis taught me to see beyond just power output. Vegeta slapped the offered hand away, struggling to his feet unassisted. This isn't over, he growled. I'll surpass you yet, whatever techniques you've learned. From his observation box, Frieza watched the exchange with calculating eyes, his tail twitching with suppressed emotion. The demonstration had revealed something unexpected, a Saiyan with power that potentially rivaled his own, and who wasn't under his control. Most interesting, he murmured. Most interesting indeed. As the arena began to clear, Goku approached Whis and Beerus, aware of the stares following him from Frisia's soldiers. You showed good control, Whis acknowledged. Though perhaps revealed more of your capabilities than was strictly necessary. Vegeta needed to know, Goku said simply. He wouldn't have accepted anything less. Pride, Beerus snorted. The eternal weakness of Saiyans. Well, the show's over. Let's continue our tour before Frisia tries to convince us to stay for more tedious entertainment. As they prepared to depart, Frisia himself approached, his expression carefully neutral. A most impressive display, Goku. I had no idea Lord Beerus had such a formidable warrior in his entourage. He's not in my entourage, Beerus corrected lazily. He's Whis' student and accompanies us at my tolerance. Of course, of course. Frisia's smile didn't reach his eyes. Still, one must wonder how such a powerful Saiyan came to be outside my awareness. Especially given recent events. Recent events? Whis inquired politely. Oh, merely a small incident on a frontier planet. Earth, I believe it was called. One of my advanced teams was driven off by a mysterious Saiyan warrior. Frisia's gaze fixed on Goku. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Goku met his gaze squarely. I told your men to leave Earth alone. It's under protection. Did you now? Frisia's voice remained pleasant, but a dangerous edge had crept into it. And by whose authority do you claim to protect this? Earth? By mine, Goku said simply. The directness of the response seemed to catch Frisia off guard. He was accustomed to fear, to deference, to elaborate political maneuvering, not to straightforward declaration. I see. Well, that complicates matters somewhat. Frisia's tail flicked in a gesture that might have been annoyance. That particular planet contains something of interest to me. The Oracle Sphere, Goku nodded. I know. But the people of Earth have nothing to do with it. They don't even know it exists. There's no reason to harm them. Noble sentiments, Frisia replied, his tone making it clear what he thought of such ideals. But ultimately naive. The cosmos doesn't operate on nobility, my dear Saiyan. It operates on power. Those who have it determine the fate of those who don't. Exactly, Goku agreed. And I have power. So I'm determining that Earth stays safe. The bluntness of this challenge left a moment of dangerous silence. Frisia's aura flickered briefly, a flare of anger quickly suppressed. Perhaps we should continue this discussion another time, Whis suggested smoothly. Lord Beerus's schedule is rather full, and we have many more destinations to visit. Of course, Frisia conceded with false graciousness. Far be it from me to delay Lord Beerus's important duties. We shall table this philosophical debate, for now. As they left the station, Goku could feel Frisia's eyes following him, cold, calculating, and filled with carefully controlled fury. He had made an enemy today, one far more dangerous than the advance force he'd encountered on Earth. You realize, of course, that Frisia will now accelerate his plans for Earth, Whis commented once they were underway to their next destination. You've essentially guaranteed his attention will focus there. Goku nodded grimly. I know. But at least now it's out in the open. No more sneaking around. And what do you plan to do about it? Beerus asked, surprisingly engaged in the conversation. Frisia commands vast forces. One Saiyan, even one trained by Whis, cannot be everywhere at once. I need to warn Earth, Goku decided. Help them prepare. And I need to find the Oracle Sphere before Frisia does. That would mean remaining on Earth for an extended period, Whis pointed out. Separating from our tour. Yes. Goku looked at them both directly. I'm asking for permission to go to Earth. To protect it from what's coming. Beerus and Whis exchanged a glance, some unspoken communication passing between them. You've been anticipating this moment, Beerus accused his attendant. You knew he would eventually choose to forge his own path. I suspected it was a possibility, Whis admitted. Goku's connection to Earth seems to transcend his lack of personal history there. Perhaps some destinies are difficult to fully redirect. Beerus sighed dramatically. Fine. I suppose we can spare you for a time. The food on that planet was decent enough that I have an interest in its continued existence anyway. Thank you, Lord Beerus. Goku bowed deeply, genuine gratitude in his voice. Don't thank me yet, Beerus warned. You're taking on Frisia and his entire empire. That's no small task, even for someone with your abilities. I don't intend to fight them all, Goku clarified. Just to find the artifact and protect the people until Frisia realizes Earth isn't worth the trouble. A sound strategy in theory, Whis noted. Though I suspect Frisia's wounded pride may complicate matters. He's not accustomed to being defied so directly. I'll handle it, Goku said with quiet confidence. It's the right thing to do. Morality, Beerus snorted. Such a tedious mortal concept. But there was something almost like approval in his tone. When can I leave? Goku asked. Immediately, if you wish, Whis replied. I can transport you to Earth before continuing our tour with Lord Beerus. Goku nodded decisively. Then that's what I want to do. Earth needs to be warned about what's coming. Very well. Whis tapped his staff, creating a pulsing light. This will take you directly to Earth, to the location where we visited previously. From there, you're on your own, though I will check in periodically if circumstances allow. Goku placed his hand on the light, then paused. Thank you, Whis. For everything you've taught me. I won't let you down. See that you don't, Whis replied, though his expression was gentle. Remember your training, particularly regarding restraint. Earth is fragile compared to what you've become. With a nod of understanding, Goku activated the transport. In a flash of light, he vanished from Whis' side, heading toward a planet he barely knew but felt compelled to protect, toward a confrontation with one of the universe's most dangerous tyrants, and toward a destiny that perhaps had been waiting for him all along. Well, that's that, Beerus yawned, settling back. Let's hope your protégé doesn't cause more trouble than he prevents. Indeed, Whis agreed, though his gaze lingered on the space where Goku had been. Though I suspect, my lord, that we haven't seen the last of Kakarot's impact on the cosmic order. As long as it doesn't interfere with my naps, Beerus grumbled. Now, where's that Centaurus restaurant you promised me? As Whis directed them toward their next destination, he couldn't help but wonder about the changes he'd set in motion that day long ago when he'd intercepted a small scion pod in the vastness of space. For all his cosmic awareness, even he couldn't predict exactly how Goku's unexpected journey would ultimately unfold. But for the first time in many millennia, he found himself genuinely curious to find out. Goku materialized in the same park where they had first arrived on Earth, startling a group of children playing nearby. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the urban landscape, and the air held the faint chill of approaching evening. It worked, he murmured, orienting himself quickly. The city looked much as it had during their brief visit, though he noticed repair work ongoing in the area where he'd confronted Frisia's advance team. His first priority was clear: find someone in authority who could help prepare Earth's defenses. But how did one approach the leaders of an unfamiliar planet? Whis had briefed him on Earth's basic political structures, but the specifics of who to contact and how remained vague. A nearby commotion caught his attention. A crowd had gathered around a large outdoor screen displaying what appeared to be news footage of Goku himself, fighting Frisia's soldiers during his previous visit. The announcer's voice carried clearly through the evening air, still no official explanation for the alien attack 3 weeks ago, nor for the mysterious defender who repelled them. Government sources continue to deny knowledge of his identity, while conspiracy theories spread online. Goku approached the crowd cautiously, aware that his appearance might cause a stir if anyone recognized him from the footage. Sure enough, a woman gasped and pointed as he drew closer. It's him. The guy from the video. All eyes turned to Goku, who offered an awkward wave. Hi. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. People surged forward, bombarding him with questions, phones recording his every move. Goku backed up, holding his hands out placatingly. I can explain, he tried, but his voice was lost in the growing commotion. Before the situation could escalate further, a black vehicle screeched to a halt nearby, and several figures in suits emerged, quickly forming a perimeter around Goku. Sir, please come with us, one of them said firmly. The director wants to speak with you. Director of what? Goku asked, confused but not resisting as they guided him toward the vehicle. Earth's Defense Forces, the agent replied cryptically. We've been looking for you since the incident. Deciding this might actually be exactly the opportunity he needed, Goku allowed himself to be escorted into the vehicle. As they drove away from the clamoring crowd, he noticed the city's lights coming on against the darkening sky, a beautiful sight that reinforced his determination to protect this world. The vehicle took him to a nondescript building on the outskirts of the city, where he was led through a series of security checkpoints into an underground facility. The technology here was clearly more advanced than what he'd seen in the city itself, evidence that Earth had at least some defensive capabilities beyond what was publicly visible. Finally, he was shown into a spacious office where a stern-looking woman with silver-streaked hair awaited him. She stood as he entered, dismissing the escorts with a gesture. So, she said without preamble once they were alone, you're the alien who fought off the invasion force. I'm Director Chen, head of Earth's Special Defense Initiative. I'm Goku, he replied simply. And yes, I stopped those soldiers. But they were just an advance team. More are coming. Director Chen's expression remained impassive, but Goku sensed her energy signature shift slightly, concern, perhaps, but controlled. Sit down, Goku. We have a lot to discuss. Over the next hour, Goku explained the situation as clearly as he could, Frisia's interest in the Oracle Sphere, the confrontation at Frisia's space station, and the likely retaliation to come. He omitted certain details about his upbringing with Whis and Beerus, sensing that introducing the concept of gods of destruction might complicate matters unnecessarily. Director Chen listened without interruption, occasionally making notes on a tablet. When Goku finished, she studied him thoughtfully. You realize this sounds fantastical from our perspective, she finally said. Interstellar tyrants, ancient artifacts hidden on Earth, a lone warrior from another race offering protection. I know it's hard to believe, Goku acknowledged. But you've already seen Frisia's forces once. And you've seen what I can do. I'm telling you the truth. The evidence does support portions of your story, she conceded. Our satellites detected energy signatures from both you and the invaders that far exceed anything in our database. And the technology their ships employed was clearly beyond our current capabilities. Then you understand the threat, Goku pressed. Earth needs to prepare. Frisia won't give up easily, especially now that I've challenged him directly. Director Chen leaned back, her expression calculating. What exactly are you proposing, Goku? What do you expect from us? Two things, he replied without hesitation. First, help me find the Oracle Sphere before Frisia does. It's here somewhere, hidden long ago. Second, prepare your best warriors to defend your people if, when, Frisia attacks in force. And in return, what do you want from Earth? Goku looked confused. I don't want anything. I just want to help. This straightforward response seemed to surprise the director. No one acts without motive, especially not beings with power like yours. I have my reasons, Goku admitted. But they're not about gaining anything from Earth. This planet, it was supposed to be my home. I feel a connection to it, even though I didn't grow up here. And I can't stand by while innocent people are threatened, especially when I have the power to help. Director Chen studied him for a long moment, apparently searching for deception and finding none. Assuming I believe you, and I'm not saying I do entirely, locating this Oracle Sphere won't be easy. We have no records of such an artifact. It would have been hidden thousands of years ago, Goku explained. Probably somewhere remote or protected by natural barriers. That hardly narrows it down. Chen noted dryly. Earth has countless archaeological sites, sacred locations, and unexplored regions. I might be able to sense its energy if I get close enough, Goku suggested. It should have a unique signature, different from anything naturally occurring on Earth. Chen considered this. We have research teams studying unusual energy phenomena around the world. I can grant you access to their data, see if anything matches what you're looking for. Thank you, Goku said sincerely. What about Earth's defenders? You must have warriors, fighters who protect this world. At this, Chen's expression turned grimmer. Earth has military forces, yes, but nothing that could stand against what you described. You saw how ineffective our weapons were against even that small advance team. But there must be individuals with special abilities, Goku pressed. I can sense several unusual energy signatures even from here. Chen raised an eyebrow. You can sense energy across distances? Yes. It's one of the basic techniques I learned growing up. Goku closed his eyes briefly, extending his awareness. There's someone about 2 kilometers northwest of here with power well above normal human levels. And another, farther east, with a different kind of energy, more refined, almost spiritual. Chen's surprise was evident now. You're referring to Project Titan and the Eastern Temple Complex. Both highly classified programs. I can help train them, Goku offered. Teach them to use their energy more effectively. Even if they can't match Frisia's elite forces, they could protect civilians, create evacuation opportunities. You're proposing to upgrade Earth's defensive capabilities with alien techniques, Chen summarized. That's a significant proposition. It's your best chance, Goku said simply. I'm strong, but I can't be everywhere at once when the attack comes. Director Chen fell silent, weighing options and implications. Finally, she activated a communication device on her desk. Arrange access for our guest to the anomaly database. And schedule a visit to Training Facility Alpha for tomorrow morning. She looked back at Goku. I'm not saying we're accepting everything you're proposing, but I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't at least investigate. That's all I'm asking, Goku assured her. A chance to help prepare Earth for what's coming. You should know that I've already dispatched reports to the Global Security Council, Chen added. They'll want to meet you, assess the threat themselves. Whatever helps convince your leaders to take this seriously. In the meantime, you'll need somewhere to stay. We have quarters here for visiting specialists that should be adequate. Goku nodded gratefully. Thank you, Director. As he was escorted to his temporary accommodation, Goku reflected on how quickly his life had changed. Just days ago, he had been traveling the universe with Whis and Beerus, observing from a distance. Now he was directly involved in preparing an entire planet for an interstellar conflict, potentially setting himself against one of the most feared beings in the galaxy. And yet, despite the gravity of the situation, he felt more purposeful than he had in years. This, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, using his power for something meaningful, this felt right in a way that mere observation never had. The quarters provided were simple but comfortable by Earth standards. After his escort left, Goku sat cross-legged on the floor, centering himself as Whis had taught him. He extended his awareness outward, feeling the energy signatures of the thousands of humans in the surrounding area, each one unique, each one now under his protection. I won't fail you, he promised quietly. Any of you. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Director Chen, having received reluctant approval from her superiors, granted Goku access to Earth's most advanced defensive projects while simultaneously mobilizing resources to search for the Oracle Sphere. Goku's first visit to Training Facility Alpha revealed exactly what he'd sensed, a small group of humans with unusually high power levels, the result of both genetic factors and intensive training. Project Titan, as it was officially designated, consisted of 12 individuals with physical capabilities far beyond ordinary humans, though still well below what Goku considered true combat potential. "They're our best," Commander Voss, the program's leader, explained as they observed a training session. Selected from Global Special Forces programs, enhanced through classified methods, trained in advanced combat techniques for over a decade. Goku watched as the warriors demonstrated their abilities, impressive by Earth standards but woefully inadequate for what was coming. "They have potential, but they're using their energy all wrong. They're forcing it rather than flowing with it." "Energy?" Voss looked skeptical. "We focus on tangible metrics, strength, speed, endurance. This energy you keep mentioning sounds mystical." "It's not mystical, just beyond your current understanding," Goku replied, not unkindly. "Here, let me show you." He approached one of the warriors, a tall woman who had demonstrated particular skill in the exercises. "May I?" he asked, gesturing for her to attack him. After receiving a nod from Voss, she complied, launching a precisely executed combination of strikes that would have incapacitated any normal opponent. Goku evaded each one effortlessly, then gently caught her final punch in his palm. "You're strong," he acknowledged. "But you're only using about 10% of your potential. You're burning energy through muscle tension instead of channeling it effectively." He released her hand and stepped back. "Watch." Goku demonstrated a simple ki manipulation technique, creating a small sphere of energy between his palms. "This is life force, what my teachers called ki. Everyone has it, but few learn to access it consciously. Your team has higher than average ki reserves naturally, but they're not using it efficiently." The demonstration caused a stir among the Titan operatives, who gathered around with expressions ranging from skepticism to fascination. "How do we learn this?" the woman Goku had sparred with asked directly. "I can teach you," Goku offered. "Not to my level, that would take decades, but enough to significantly increase your effectiveness against Frisia's forces." Commander Voss still looked doubtful but nodded slowly. "If Director Chen has approved this training, then we'll cooperate. Though I remain to be convinced of its practical applications." Goku smiled. "Give me 1 week with your team. If you don't see measurable improvements, I'll try a different approach." That week turned into a comprehensive overhaul of Project Titan's training regimen. Goku introduced basic ki manipulation techniques, teaching the warriors to sense and direct their internal energy. Some adapted more quickly than others, but all showed significant improvement once they grasped the fundamental concepts. By the end of the week, even the skeptical Commander Voss had to admit the results were impressive. His team demonstrated abilities that defied conventional explanation, enhanced strength, limited energy projection, and the beginnings of controlled flight in a few cases. "I still don't entirely understand how this works," Voss admitted as they concluded a particularly successful session. "But I can't argue with results. They're performing at levels our projections didn't anticipate for years, if ever." "This is just the beginning," Goku assured him. "With continued practice, they'll develop these abilities further, especially once they start teaching each other." While Goku worked with Project Titan, Earth's research teams combed through data on unusual energy anomalies, searching for anything that might indicate the Oracle Sphere's location. The search yielded several promising leads: unexplained energy readings from remote locations around the globe, legends of mysterious artifacts with supernatural properties, archaeological sites with anomalous characteristics. Goku investigated each lead personally, traveling to locations ranging from mountain monasteries to underwater caverns. Though he found many interesting phenomena and even a few lesser artifacts of apparent alien origin, the Oracle Sphere remained elusive. "It has to be here somewhere," he insisted during a progress meeting with Director Chen. Whis was certain of it. "Our resources are stretched thin," Chen replied. "We're maintaining the search, but we also need to focus on defensive preparations. Global military forces are on heightened alert, and Project Titan is being expanded to train additional recruits in your techniques." "That's good," Goku acknowledged. "But finding the sphere remains crucial. If Frisia gets it, he'll gain the ability to locate other powerful artifacts across the universe. The damage he could do. I understand the stakes, Chen assured him. But we're working with limited information. This artifact could be anywhere on Earth, or even in Earth's vicinity. We need to narrow the search parameters. Goku frowned thoughtfully. If I were hiding something that powerful, I'd put it somewhere naturally protected, somewhere with existing energy patterns that might mask its signature. Like what? Places with unusual magnetic fields, maybe. Or geothermal activity. Somewhere remote but significant. Chen nodded, making notes. I'll redirect our search efforts accordingly. In the meantime, there's someone I'd like you to meet, someone who might offer a different perspective on our search. The someone turned out to be Professor Hiroshi, an elderly man with a serene presence and energy signature unlike any other human Goku had encountered on Earth. He was introduced as a consultant on metaphysical phenomena, though Goku sensed there was more to his role than that simple description suggested. So you're the warrior from the stars, Hiroshi said when they were introduced, studying Goku with keen eyes that belied his advanced age. Fascinating. Your energy signature is unlike anything in our records. You can sense energy? Goku asked, surprised. Among other things, Hiroshi nodded. There are traditions on Earth that have developed spiritual awareness over thousands of years, though few practitioners reach truly advanced levels. Professor Hiroshi oversees our Eastern Temple program, Chen explained. A different approach to enhanced human capabilities than Project Titan. More holistic, Hiroshi specified. Less focused on combat applications, more on harmony with universal energies. Though recent events have necessitated some adjustment in our priorities. Director Chen said you might have insights about the Oracle Sphere, Goku prompted. Perhaps. Hiroshi stroked his beard thoughtfully. Ancient texts from various cultures refer to a cosmic eye or all-seeing orb hidden by sky visitors in Earth's distant past. Most scholars dismiss such references as mythological, but in light of recent revelations. That sounds promising, Goku said eagerly. Do these texts mention where it might be hidden? Not explicitly, no. But they consistently associate it with concepts of balance, harmony, and the nexus of opposing forces. One text describes it as resting where earth meets sky, where fire cools water, where darkness illuminates and silence speaks. Poetic, but not particularly helpful for a geographic search, Chen commented dryly. On the contrary, Hiroshi replied. To those versed in ancient metaphysical traditions, such descriptions often point to very specific conditions. In this case, I believe it suggests a location where multiple elemental forces converge, likely a mountain with both volcanic activity and water features, possibly near an equatorial region where day and night are balanced. Goku's eyes widened as something clicked in his mind. I've sensed something like that. About a week ago, when I was investigating that island chain in the Pacific. There was a dormant volcano with hot springs at its base, near the equator. I felt an unusual energy pattern but couldn't pinpoint its source. The Meridian Islands, Chen nodded. They've been on our list of anomalous locations, but initial scans didn't reveal anything definitively unusual. Conventional instruments wouldn't, Hiroshi explained. If this artifact is what our friend describes, it would be shielded from normal detection methods. Only direct spiritual perception would reveal its presence. I need to go back there, Goku decided. Now that I know what I might be looking for, I can focus my senses more specifically. Chen didn't waste time with unnecessary deliberation. I'll arrange transport immediately. Professor Hiroshi, would you be willing to accompany him? Your expertise might prove valuable on site. It would be my honor, the elderly man agreed with a slight bow. Within hours, they were airborne in a high-speed military transport. Goku, used to Whis' instantaneous travel method, found the journey frustratingly slow despite the aircraft's impressive velocity. But he used the time to discuss energy sensing techniques with Professor Hiroshi, finding surprising common ground between the elderly human's traditional methods and what Whis had taught him. Remarkable, Hiroshi commented after Goku demonstrated a particular awareness expansion technique. Your approach achieves in moments what our adepts work years to master. Yet the underlying principles are nearly identical. Whis always said that certain truths are universal, Goku replied. The specific methods might differ, but the fundamental nature of energy remains consistent across the cosmos. Hiroshi nodded sagely. Your teacher sounds wise indeed. I would very much like to meet him someday. Maybe you will, Goku. Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Start the story's next chapter here. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.